if you want to get in the baseball mode, go over to BetMGM and start looking at futures bets. I feel like that's a great way to get your mindset right for baseball season around the quarter. So looking at some of these futures bets, of course, to win the World Series, the Dodgers are your favorites at a very short plus 250. We know that they've owned the offseason. They've gotten all the free agents. Ohtani is going to be pitching again this year, and they just won the World Series. So it's hard to go against the Dodgers. But let me ask you this, Lucy. At plus 250, do you feel like this is too short of a price?
Yes, I think there are other teams lower on the board that there is more value in them to win the World Series. But last year, I remember being in this spot and thinking it's too easy to bet the Dodgers to win the World Series. They're not going to do it. They're too overhyped. It's not going to come to, like, it's not going to be in fruition what they've paid for. And I mean, that wasn't correct. They won the World Series. So if you want a bet that's likely to hit, plus 250, those odds might get even shorter as the season goes on and not as much value. But it's a little bit boring. That's a boring pick. It might, in the end, could be the right one perhaps. But there are other teams that are more interesting to me that have a real shot. So if, of course, the Red Sox plus 2,500, that goes without saying. But another team that is plus 2,500, that could, you could maybe take to do this. The Padres, I think, will be, I think right now underrated, a little bit of a sleeper here, who could take down the Dodgers and move on to the World Series. They gave them a run for their money. They challenged them last year in the playoffs, and one little thing could go wrong for the Dodgers, and the Padres could take it. So I think, and there's a rivalry there. So, and I think Fernando Tatis Jr. might be a little chip on his shoulder about how last year went. So Padres plus 2,500, I do not hate at all. For the World Series, and you could take them to win the NL perhaps as well if they could really challenge the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers are have improved and they're buying every player, and every player is going to the Dodgers, but it's not always on in reality what on paper it actually is. So Padres plus 2,500, also Red Sox plus 2,500 are two teams a little bit further down the board that I would be looking at.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely had some competition in the NL West in general, because it was the Padres who were challenging them. It was the Diamondbacks. It was not a runaway victory for the Dodgers last year, even in the regular season. And I feel like the difference between the regular season and the postseason is, anybody can win, especially if it's some of these wild card games where it's a one-game season. Like, think about that. The way that baseball is constructed, it's a 162 game season for a reason, because it is a large sample size sport. So when you condense it into one game, anything can really happen. So if the Dodgers find themselves in one of those games, they can absolutely lose. It would not be the craziest thing that's ever happened. The Dodgers have had great rosters for the last 10 years. They have been regular season juggernauts, but yet they've only won 2 of those World Series. So that's why I don't think I'll be taking them at plus 250. I think if you like the Dodgers, maybe just wait and see if you can find a better price. I'm not saying that you take the other side and say, oh, just hit all the unders for the Dodgers. No, of course they're going to be a great team, but maybe you just wait, because half of betting on futures is doing the right timing. You do a show on futures, and half of it, it's like playing the stock market. The time to buy is the most important thing. It's not necessarily the stock, it's knowing when to buy in.
Yep, exactly. And so that's why anything could happen any day. And especially those one game wild card games where sometimes it comes down to it could come down to how did Shohei Ohtani sleep last night? It could be, is he sick? One guy had a bad night's sleep, or he's sick or something. It changes everything, because you got one shot, as Eminem said. Do not miss your chance. And sometimes you miss your chance. And, the Dodgers could miss their chance, perhaps, if they're a wild card team. So you never know. So that's why, exactly, I would wait on this. And that's why I have not made a definitive World Series pick yet, because it is about timing and it is about waiting. The Mets also could be a contender as well, because they now have Juan Soto and the Yankees don't. So the Mets could also be in the mix as well.
Yeah, but it's kind of built into the price as well. Here are the full list of odds over at BetMGM. So Dodgers plus 250, Yankees plus 800, Braves plus 950, Mets 12-1. I guess this is out of order. The Phillies are 11-1, which the Phillies, you could probably talk me into this just about every year, just because their rotation is so good. They're postseason proven. but they do have some competition within their own division with the Atlanta Braves. So one bet that I feel like I usually make every single year, it was like the first time it hadn't hit in like 6 years, the Braves to win the NL East. It just feels to me like the Braves are one of those teams that are regular season juggernauts. They are kind of like the Dodgers of the NL East. So even if they don't win a World Series, they're going to give you good win totals, it feels like, every single year. They've won at least 100 games, or excuse me, at least 95 games in each of the last 3 seasons. And if you look at their lineup this year, once again, it is a very good lineup. Michael Harris, somebody who was contention for a Rookie of the Year when he came up, leading off there. You've got Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, and of course, Ronald Acuna Jr. when he gets back healthy. So I feel like that's a really good lineup, and that's a team that always is good in the regular season. Their front office is good. It feels like they always make the right moves. Chris Sale is back. So it feels like the Braves to me win the NL East. I think that's one bet that I'll probably be making. Lucy, have you made any bets when it comes to baseball futures yet?
Not any yet. I have not made any yet, but that's why I'm preparing now to get all of the pieces of the puzzle together so I can firmly place my bets. But for NL East winner, what I would bet the Mets to win the NL East at plus 200. Soto, Lindor, Alonso is back. That says to me this team is going to be very good, and they actually have a shot. Now, they had a couple of runs last season, and it was fueled by maybe some lucky charms and by things that gimmicky things they were doing, but it was working. It was working. Mm-hmm. So if they can do that kind of thing and really push it this year, plus 200 to win the NL East, I like that very much for the Mets this year.
I think I'd rather take like postseason bets on the Mets, because here's the thing about the Mets that I feel like I notice every year. They go through like some type of slump. Like the Mets are going to Met at some point in the season, and it's going to look like everything is going in the wrong direction. They had it last year, and it was still a team that ended up pretty good, had like a remarkable run in the postseason. So if you're betting on any type of Mets futures, you wait till the Mets met, and then that's when you buy in, because it happens every year.
It's true. And that could definitely happen this year. And the key, though, is that it doesn't happen at the wrong time. And that it doesn't happen toward the end of the season where their collapse happens. The middle of the season, generally where I would look for the Mets to Met, and then they bring it back and they come back, they propel from there, and they really gain some momentum. But the timing, if they don't Met by the middle of the season, then we might be a little concerned, and we will be still waiting. If they could do it at the beginning, maybe would be great, and then just power forward. But I would hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it feels like we need like a Mets Metting forecast. Like, what month do we think it's going to happen? Hopefully, like you said, it's the middle of the season, or at least for their case. But I do feel like what Juan Soto brings to this lineup is a lot of consistency. Somebody who consistently is going to give you a great season. One of the best pure hitters in all of baseball. I feel like he is a great add to this Mets lineup. We know he brings the swagger. And if anybody can back it up, it's certainly Juan Soto. So for a team that's been, I don't want to label him like little brother to the Yankees, but in those two teams and like in that city, it feels like the Yankees have always had the upper hand, or at least, in recent history, it feels like this is a chip in their favor.